We then move on to the Pragmatische Axiome of Communication. The book lists out 5 Pragmatische Axiom. These are basically only for knowledge purposes, and normally they don't ask it in the exams. But just for the sake of knowing, take a note of them. First one is Man kann nicht kommunizieren. What this means is basically says communication is a form of a behavior. Via our behavior, we send signals which are interpreted by the person. Our intuition and the experience helps to interpret and estimate the situation correctly. But at the same time, this can also result in misunderstandings and incorrect interpretations. So technically this axiom says, even though you are not speaking out, the way you move your body, the body language, the tone, or even if you're not talking, the way you look, all of these things are a way of communication only. It's called as behavioral communication. The axiom says communication is actually a behavior and not exclusively something which comes out during you speak. The next axiom is jede Kommunikation hat einen Inhalt und eine Beziehungsaspekt. Das Letztere den Ersteren bestimmt. Daher eine Metakommunikation ist. Meaning, every communication has a content and a relationship aspect. And the relationship aspect basically confirms the interpretation of the inhalt of communication. And that way, the relationship between the speaker and the listener is kind of a meta communication. That's what is written in these 2 lines. Hier geht es darum, die Beziehungen zwischen den Kommunikationspartner. So how is the relationship between the communication partner? Is it parent-child, husband-wife, or partner-to-partner, teacher-student, boss and employee, things like that. When the relationship is not good, then it also influences the communication. So if the boss is angry, or if there is no good relationship between the boss and the employee, then whatever the boss says, the employee is not going to listen, and the end result will be failure. Then we move on to the third axiom. Die Natur einer Beziehung ist durch die Interpunktion der Kommunikationsabläufe seitens der Partner bedingt. The nature of the relationship between the communication partner is based upon the interpunction of the communication process from the side of the partner. Meaning, for you to learn properly, you must be motivated and you must be interested in having that conversation with the partner, or you must stimulate the listener in such a way that he is interested in the topic of communication. So that's what this axiom basically says. If you want a successful classroom or a successful learning experience, then make sure to motivate the students so that they can interpret the Kommunikationsabläufe in a positive manner. Then we have the fourth axiom. Menschliche Kommunikation bedient sich digitaler und analoger Modalitäten. Digitale Kommunikation haben eine komplexe und vielseitige logische Syntaxe, aber eine auf dem Gebiet der Beziehungen unzulängliche Semantik. Analoge Kommunikation dagegen besitzen dieses semantische Potenzial, ermangeln aber die für die eindeutige Kommunikation erforderliche logische Syntaxe. Meaning, first up, it begins with 2 aspects, or classifies menschliche Kommunikation as digital and analog communication. Digital communication basically involves structures, logical thinking, and it doesn't involve the emotional aspects. Analog communication, on the other side, involves a lot of the emotional aspects and doesn't take into account the structure or the complexity. That's what is explained next. Digitale Kommunikation heißt zufällig und willkürlich einem Gegenstand zu Wort verbinden. So, as long as you have the logical rule correctly, in digital communication, you can connect a word to a Gegenstand. And there can be no emotional connection at all between the word that is being spoken and the Gegenstand which is being showed. Hier ist eine logische Beziehung vorstellbar, aber manche Wörter werden wegfallen. So, that's why. So, a vase, you can have a justification saying a vase is where you put the water in it and you put the plants. It holds the plants, that's why it's called as vase. But when it comes to expressing emotions, happiness, sad, then you cannot do digital communication. Like, how will you represent taste? How will you represent sadness? How will you connect sadness with a word? Why is that word representing sadness? Those things are difficult to explain in digitale Kommunikation. Analog communication is exactly the opposite, where a Gegenstand can be combined to a symbol. So that way you can connect a mimic to sadness, you can connect a mimic to happiness, smiley face, happiness, dull face, sadness. So that way you can connect the analog communication. In analog communication, you cannot really give a logical justification when you are sad. You are sad means why is your face going dull? There is no logical justification for that. Why is your smile gone when you are sad? We don't know that, right? So that's what analog communication is all about. And successful communication is combining both of them. Then we have the last one, zwischenmenschliche Kommunikationsabläufe. This in-between communication between people, they are either symmetric or complementary. Ob die Beziehung zwischen den Partnern auf Gleichheit oder Unterschiedlichkeit beruht. And it depends upon the relationship between the communication partners, if they see each other as equals or they see each other differently. So technically, this says that when people interact, they either acknowledge each other's ideas or they either complete each other's ideas. It again comes back to say how good is the relationship between the partners. So communication ist durch Beziehungen bestimmt. It's depending upon the relation between the communication partner. Symmetrical communication meaning the communications partner find themselves on the same Augenhöhe, same level. So typical example is friends. Complementary communication means it is one directive and one indirective or passive. So in this case, parent and child, teacher and student. Die Kommunikationspartner sich gegenseitig ergänzen und bestätigen. So one gives an order and they ask, have you understood? The other one says, yes, I have understood, and that way it continues.
With that, the chapter comes to an end. Please feel free to like, subscribe and comment to the channel. If you have any questions, then contact me via email or put down your comments and I'll be able to reply. Thank you.